a really warm welcome back to Urban Flower Collective. My name's Lisa and I'm your host here. So today we're going to be making these gorgeous magnolia flowers. These are out in spring, they're out now in the UK, and I think they're really pretty. Nice sort of white with a hint of pink. You can put as much pink on these as you want. You can have them open or you can have them quite closed. So they're really nice and versatile, and I think they look really nice, sort of quite minimal on a branch like this, with maybe 2 or 3 flowers and some buds. So I'll show you how to make the flower, I'll show you how to make the buds and how to make the branch. So let's get started. We don't need too many things for this. There looks quite a lot on the desk here, but I'll run you through. So obviously we're going to need a rolling pin to roll out our sugar paste. We're going to need some flower paste. Now I'm using today my favourite, Ultrafine by Simply Heaven, and I'm just using white. So you can see it's a white flower and it's got hints of pink on it. I'm going to colour up for the calyx with some brown. So I'm going to colour up a little bit of the paste brown, and I'm just using Fractal Colours Cocoa for that. You can use whichever brown gel colour you've got. We're also going to need some wire, and I'm using 26 gauge wire for the petals, and I'm using a thicker 22 gauge wire for the centre. And then I'm going to use 22 gauge wire for the branches with maybe a bit of 16 as well, just to give it that sort of firm branch-like look. I've got some disposable spoons that I reuse, and these are to shape our petals with. If you don't have anything like this, then you can use aluminium foil to shape them with. We're obviously going to need some cutters. Now I've got lots and lots of magnolia cutters, and this is just one of the 3 packs I've got. I'm just going to use the small and the medium cutters for this. If you've only got one size cutter, that's fine as well, don't worry. If you haven't got a cutter at all, you can just draw around a petal and make your own template and just cut it with either a cutting wheel like this, or with an X-Acto blade. So there are cutters. I've also got 2 veiners. I've got this really small magnolia veiner, which I really like. It's got really nice veins in it, but unfortunately it's not quite big enough for the larger petal. So I've got another larger magnolia veiner, petal veiner as well. So this one is from Sugar Art Studios. It's quite an expensive one, so it is quite an investment, but it's well worth it to get the nice veins in. So I'm going to be using those 2 veiners. If you don't have a veiner, you can always draw in veins with a Dresden tool. We are going to need a Dresden tool as well. I've got 2 here, so just to show you the different types you can have. We're also going to need something to sort of thin out the petals. Now you can use the edge of your rolling pin, but I've got this little tool called a boning tool. This is just from Amazon. It's only a few pounds, so you can look that up. It comes in a pack of 2, and I just find it a really handy little tool for thinning out the edges of the petals. While we're on with petals, we're also going to need some scissors, and that's going to be our centre of the magnolia. I'll show you that later. And then we've got some tape. Now we need brown tape just to tape up the branch and make the nodules and things on the branch. And then I've just got some very thin white tape, and I'll show you what we need this for later as well. And then finally I've got some cotton. And now this is an alternative. If you don't have thin florist tape, you can use cotton for the same thing, but I'll show you later. That's for the centre. And then I've just got 3 different colours. I've got a yellow and a green for our centre, so I've got a yellow and a green brush, and I've got some pink to dust on. Now these colours are, this pink is from Edible Art and it's bubblegum pink, but you can use whatever pink, whatever tone you like. I've also got a Fractal Colours moss green, and I've got a rainbow dust sunset yellow. So they're the colours I'm going to be using, but obviously you can use whichever colours you've got. Finally, I've got a blowtorch. You can use your gas. If you've got a gas hob, you can use gas hob. If you don't have that, you can use a candle, just any kind of flame. Or you can leave your centre to dry overnight if you don't have a blowtorch. So let's get started. I've already rolled out my paste. I've rolled it out on a pasta machine to level 8. So as I said, I'm just starting with white paste. And I'm going to start with the petals because they can be drying, while we make the centre. So for the petals, we're going to need, so I'll bring this Magnolia back over. So if you can see, there are 3 centre petals, so 3 smaller petals. As I say, if you don't have a smaller cutter, don't worry, just do 9 of the normal size, of the one size. But I've got 3 smaller ones in the middle and then 6 larger ones on the outside. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be cutting 9 out. So I'm going to take my small cutter first. Now, if you've got a petal pad, you can use that, or a polythene document wallet, just to keep these moist while we're working on them, particularly if you're new to making sugar flowers and you're a little bit slower. So we've got 3 of these. Like so, just make sure you get a good cut. So putting them in there, and then I'm going to do 6 of these larger ones. So that's all our petals cut now. I'm going to keep this spare paste because we're going to need that shortly as well to make our centre and to get our wires onto these petals. I've got a little Tupperware box, which is really handy to have, just any kind of airtight box. You can pop your spare paste, and you can see I've already coloured up some brown and I've got some spare white in there. So I'm just going to put the lid on that and keep it airtight while we're working on the flower. So next, what I want to do is just thin out these edges just a little bit more, and that's where this tool comes in. Now, if you don't have a tool like this, you could use, as I say, the end of a rolling pin. We're doing it between the polythene because we don't want to change the shape of it too much, but we just want to make these thinner. We don't want a frilly edge with the ball tool, we just want to make these thinner. If you could, use the edge of a ruler, you could even use a ball tool, but that may leave a little ridge, but just to thin out these edges. So I'm just going to show you, we don't want to change the shape of the petal, but we just want to make these edges a little bit thinner. So you can see I'm just going half on and half off and just rubbing, and I just want to make these nice and fine to make them look a little bit more organic, and so they haven't got that just cut look. So I'm doing it for each one. Okay, now we've done that, we're going to try and get our wires on. So I'm taking my 26 gauge wire here, and I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. We don't need it too long, so I'm going to cut these into 4. I've got another one here to make our 9, and that should be enough. Now for this method of getting the wires onto the petals, you need your paste to be really sticky. So that's why we've kept it in this container. If it's not really sticky, it isn't going to work. So we need just a tiny bit, not too much. Put the rest back away in your Tupperware or in your airtight container. Now I'm just going to take the tiniest bit of paste, and I'm going to twirl it onto the end of this wire. Now you may be slow at this to start with. If you've done my classes before, you know this is the way I usually put my petals onto the wires. So you may have had a bit of practice. If it feels too thick, just give it a roll out on your cutting mat. And we're gonna do this for every petal. Now I'll do the 3 small ones to start with, and I'm going to do 3 at a time. If you're slow, just do 1 at a time. There's no rush here. We've got these keeping nice and moist in our protective wallet. As I say, if you don't have one of these protective wallets, you can just use a normal document wallet, paper document wallet. Just cut the sides off it and lift the flap and keep them in there. It's just to keep them moist, to stop them drying out before we finish working on them. So, right, they're my 3 for the small ones. So I'll show you what we are going to do next. So I'm going to take this, I'll take all 3 out. 1, 2 and 3, and we're just going to give these a bit of shape and get them onto the petals. So where's my small vena? Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. So I'm going to take the small vena first. Now, these inside petals, you're going to see the inside of them. So I'm going to put the wire on the back. So this is the back. I'm just going to put the wire like so, just to the bottom. Where the end of the paste is on the wire, that goes to the bottom of the petal. I'm going to flip it over, pop it in the vena. Now the scooped bit is the back. And I'm just going to press down, and that should attach our petal to the wire nicely. You can't really see where that is. You definitely can't see it on the front. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to do the same for the other two. So just put these on the back of the petal and press down. So there are 3 small ones done. Next, one of the things I forgot to tell you we needed was some foam. So this is just dimple sponge. It's really soft sponge. You can buy sponge, just plain sponge as well, that would do. We just need something really soft, not a firm petal pad. And what we're going to do is put this face up on the sponge, and we're going to take our Dresden tool. And with the fatter end of the Dresden tool, we're just going to run round the very edge of these petals, just to pull them in a little bit. Give them a little bit of shape. Then I'm going to nip the bottom in and just give that a little twirl around the wire as well, because that will just bring the shape in a little bit more. I'm just going to give it a little pinch at the top, and then I'm going to place it on my spoon in that sort of curved shape. Make sure it's taken on the curved shape, and I'm going to leave that to dry. I'm going to do the same with the other. Actually, I prefer this Dresden tool, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm just going around the edge just to bring in those edges. I'm going to nip in the bottom, nip in the top, and pop it on my spoon. So you can see there's not too much to do with these petals. So these are the 3 small ones. Now we're going to do exactly the same with the large ones. If you feel this is a bit bulky at the bottom, and these ones aren't, but the larger ones tend to be, we can just trim a little bit off them. And I'll show you when I do the large ones. So there are 3 small ones. We're just going to leave those on those spoons to dry nicely. I'll pop them out of the way. And then next, I'll show you one of these larger ones, and I'm going to bring over my larger vena. Now, make sure that your petal cutters do match the size of your vena. So I bought that small one first, and it was just a bit too small, so I had to buy this larger one. So again, we're going to just pop on some paste onto our wire. And again, I would do 3 at a time normally, but I'll just show you one of these larger ones to save time. As I say, if you feel it's a little bit bulky, just give it a roll. Now this time, because if you look at this Magnolia, you see the backs more of these, because sometimes they're closed up and some of them I will make a little bit more closed. I like to put the wire on the front of these ones, because I think you see the backs of these a little bit more. So I'm going to pop that in, and I'm going to put the wire on the front. If you're going to make a really open if you're going to make a really open Magnolia, then stick to the back, put it on the back. But I just think it looks a little bit nicer when the back's got no extra paste on it. So as I say, I think this one is a little bit bulky, so I'm just going to take my cutting wheel and I'm just going to trim that off a little bit. Now you can play it by ear. If it If yours looks okay, then you don't need to do this. And then I'm going to do exactly the same. So with the back side down, I'm going to bring my Dresden tool in, and I'm just going to go around the very edges, just to curl those in a little bit. We don't want this to be a frilly petal because it's not a frilly plant. So that's just bringing those in a little bit. I'm going to nip that in at the bottom to bring it in a little bit more, give it a twirl. So you can see it would be a bit too bulky if I hadn't cut that extra off. I'm going to nip the top a bit to bring that nice curve in, and again I'm going to place it on a dessert spoon to get the shape. Now if you don't have any dessert spoons, you can use, you could use ones that you've just got in your kitchen, or you could use an egg shaper, a proper shaper, but I try and use tools that are cheap and reasonably easy to get hold of. So I'm going to do the same for all of the other 5 petals. Okay, so that's all 6 petals on the wires. Just going to take the Dresden tool, shape them and put them on the formers, the spoon formers. So that's our 9 petals all done. So I'm going to pop these just to one side to dry, and while they're taking shape and drying, we'll make our centre. So for the centre, I'm going to bring over some 20 gauge wire. You can use 20 or 22, it's up to you. I think this is a little bit long, so I'm going to I'm going to leave it. I shall leave it. You don't need it this long, you can have it as long as you want, but I'm going to leave it this length. And what I'm going to do is just take some of that excess white paste we had. We don't need too much. And let's put that lid back on. I'm just going to roll it into a ball and then roll it into a cone shape. Like so. And then you can either put some edible glue on the end of this, pop it in and leave it overnight to harden up, or if you want to do it straight away while it's still fairly soft, then I would use a blowtorch, and I would suggest doing this. So either a blowtorch, or you can use your gas hob if you've got a gas hob. But we just want to heat this up, if I've got any gas in here, until it's red hot. So you can see that happens fairly quickly with the blowtorch. If you're using a candle or any other kind of flame, just wait until it's red hot and then pop it in. You can see it smokes. This just melts the sugar inside, and when it cools off, it hardens, and that isn't going to budge anyway. So I'm just going to leave that for 1 minute. It smells like nice toasted marshmallows, so it's a really nice smell as well. I'll just pop that excess paste away again. And then with using our little either nail scissors or dressmaking scissors, we just need a tiny little pair of scissors like this. We're going to start to put some texture into this. Now, we're going to cut into it, but sort of on the side. So hopefully, if you can see this, what I'm doing. So I'm kind of cutting sideways on into the paste. So I'm opening the blades and bringing them down into the paste, and it just gives you that nice little spiky texture that the centre of the Magnolia has. I love this method, I really enjoy doing this. So we're going to just keep turning and we're going to go all the way around. So you need to do this while the paste is soft, obviously. So if you've just used edible glue, then be careful that you don't knock the end off. If you've used the blowtorch or any kind of heat like I have, then it should be fine. So it shouldn't budge. So we're just going to go around systematically. When you've finished a row, go a little bit further up until we get to the very point of this cone. So you can see I'm just turning around and snipping in with these little scissors. And it gives us that lovely spiky texture. So hopefully you can see that. It's a really nice spiky texture. So I'm just going to pop that to one side for now. Now, if you look at the Magnolia I've made, you can see it's got that sort of spiky middle, but then it's got some little stamen around the outside as well. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. I've tried all sorts of ways. You can use pre-bought stamen, but you don't really need the beads on the end. So you could use these kind of things, but just cut the beads off the ends. And that's an easy way to do it. You can keep these little ends for sunflower seeds. I am doing a sunflower tutorial really soon. So if you want to use these stamen, you can cut the ends off like so and use these to go around. But do keep these little bits because you will use these if you do my sunflower class. At this point, I'd just like to say, do remember to subscribe. Please subscribe, touch the notification bell. There's lots of tutorials coming out in the next few months. So there's lots and lots to see and lots to learn. So yeah, but remember to do that. And if you want to join my free Facebook group, then that's Urban Cake Collective. You'd be very welcome to join that too. Or Urban Flower Collective if you want help with the sugar flowers, of course. So that's one way of doing it. So cut off the ends and use little stamen. The other way, which I really like, and this is what I've used, in fact I've got two examples here, for this one, is using half or quarter width florist tape. Now I've tried doing this with sugar paste or flour paste and it snaps off. Whereas if you use this, I mean the flowers aren't edible anyway because they've got wires in them. If you twirl it round, you get really thin wire that you can cut into small pieces and make really nice flexible stamen. Now this is my favourite way of doing it because you've got a bit more flexibility, you can move them around, you can see, you can move these and put them in whatever position you want. The other way you can do it is by using thread. Now you can use that, ideally you would use upholstery thread which is a bit thicker. At the moment I've run out, so I've only got normal dressmaker's thread. But again, it gives you really nice fine stamen and you can use that, and that's the quickest method. So I shall, if you want to use this one, you know, just what I do, I'll show you how to do this one, is I've cut it into clumps. So I'll cut a few pieces off, keep them all roughly the same size, and I put them in little bundles. like that. They usually stick together if they're quite sticky, and I'll stick them around the base, and you can see that looks really nice. If you want to use thread, then what I do is I just wrap it around 2 fingers. You need to wrap it around, I'd say at least 40 times. I'm not going to use this method today, but I shall show you how you do it. Just cut it off. Cut this like that. And there you've got your little stamen as well. And again, you can stick those all around the edges. So see which one you prefer. Either way, we're going to need to dust it up. And the middle is usually yellow with maybe a hint of pink on. Let me bring some paper so I don't get dust everywhere. So just taking a brush, which is here, I would just dust up the cotton. And it's sort of a yellowy white, the stamen, and it would go around like that. But today I'm going to use the other stuff, so I shall show you that. Now where we've got the dust out, we may as well dust up our centre. So the centre on the Magnolia, or the ones that I'm making, are sort of a yellow and green. So I'm going to start off with some yellow here, just because I've got the yellow out. And it doesn't need to go everywhere because we're going to put green on as well. So I'm going to bring over my green. So this is just Sunset Yellow by Rainbow Dust, and I've got Moss Green by Fractal Colours. And I think these are nice colours for the centre. So again, I'm just going to brush these up. Now you can see I use makeup brushes to apply my petal dust, which I find they're nice and soft, and they're really easy to use, and they're fairly cheap. So just buy lots of makeup brushes if you're getting into sugar flowers. And I keep each colour, so I keep a green for the greens, I keep a yellow for the yellows, because I find that the colour does kind of get into these brushes. Sometimes it's hard to get the colour completely out. So I tend to keep the same brushes for the same kind of colours. So you can see I've just dusted that up, sort of a yellowy green colour. So that's that. So next I'm going to start to make my stamen. And again, I think I'm going to use the method I used for the thread, but this is just florist tape wound up. This just makes it a little bit quicker. Again, I'll cut them in half. So I've got those bundles. So to make this string, all I do is take this, take a piece of florist tape, and I just twist it round. So it's a little bit time consuming, but I think you get much more movement. And it just, I think it gives a nicer look. So you can see I'm just twisting that round between my thumb and finger. And that's how you get the thread. May as well finish that off and use it. So once I've got my bundles, I'm just going to dust these up with a bit of yellow as well. And I don't want it completely yellow, I want them to be sort of a yellow with a hint of white on them. And again with these. So yeah, I've tried this with flower paste, and I've tried it with extruders as well, and it seems to snap off. So this just gives me much more flexibility. So I'm just going to tape these on a few at a time. So you just do the same with the thread, with the dressmaker's thread if you've got that, or the upholstery thread. So you can see these are just going around. Make sure if this isn't dry that you don't knock it off. You don't want these too long. I've probably made them pretty long, but we don't want them too long. few more. So we've got those taped on, and then you can manipulate them around and separate them out and have some high and some low, and that makes quite a nice centre. So that's our centre done. I'll pop that to one side, and now we can go back to our leaves. Now, if you've got a dehydrator or even an air fryer with a dehydrator on, you can pop them in the oven or in the dehydrator at about 50 degrees centigrade to help quicken the drying process off. But if you haven't, just be patient, let them dry for an hour or so before you dust them up. So I've got some that I have dried already, and I'm just going to show you how I do this. In fact, I'm just going to turn this over because I don't want any yellow on them. I've got some fresh paper. So I'm taking my Edible Art Bubblegum Pink because that's the colour I like, and that's what colour I used on the others. And I've got a little pink brush here again, and it's a makeup brush, an eye makeup brush. I'm going to bring over the 3 smaller ones first. Now with this, less is more. You can't take this pink off, you can add more. So I'll go very cautious, give your brush a good tap, and let's go in. So we want it a bit deeper at the base, and then we want kind of an ombre effect. We want it to go into white. So we want it a bit deeper at the bottom, but then just going up into a pale white, if you can see. And the same on the back, because we are going to see the backs of these probably more than the fronts. Now you can leave it at that, because that is what a lot of magnolias are like. Here's another couple I've made, and you can see with those ones I've just done pink at the bases. But if you like this look, and I shall show you how to do this look, where it kind of goes up the veins as well, and up the veins in the middle, it gives it a little bit more interest. And if you want to practice your dusting skills, this is a nice way to do it. You can just start to dust a little bit more, just up the middle, just faintly up the middle again, you can see, so not too severe. And if your wires are showing a little bit, it's a good way to hide them. Although here you can't see the wires at all. So I've just gone up a tiny bit up the middle, very faintly, as you can see, hopefully. So I'm going to do the same for all of these leaves. So just, as I say, less is more. Just gently up, make it ombre, go about the same height for each one. Tap off. A little bit darker at the base. You can add a little bit more at that base. But then we're just going to really gently brush up here. We don't want too much, we just want that nice sort of ombre effect that fades into the white. Like so. And again, for this one, I think I shall put the line up. So I'm just pulling that up a little bit, just up the centre. Like so. So once you've done all 3 small ones, we'll move on to the larger ones, and it's exactly the same. Okay, so now we've got all our petals dusted up. I'm going to tape them up. So I'm going to use brown tape because that will look like the branch of the magnolia. And I'm just going to cut this in half because I don't want full width tape at the moment. I don't want it to be too bulky. So I'm going to take our centre and start with these smaller petals. So I'm just going to bend it back a tiny bit. I want this to look fairly closed. So I'm just going to add this to the very base where the stamen, the little stamens start, and I'm going to start taping up. Now if you haven't used florist tape before, just give it a stretch, and as you turn around it'll stick to itself, so press it down. So we're going to do that for all three of these smaller ones. So you can see I want this to look a little bit more closed than the example. I like to have a few open and a few closed looking. And the same with this one. So don't worry if they're not in the right place, you can manipulate these round once you've got them taped up a bit. I'm going to take that tape all the way down just so it doesn't get too fat at the top. And then give these a twist around. Yep, so that's quite closed. And then I'm going to continue with the second row. Now just see where there are gaps and place them where there are gaps. You can have some more open than others, or you can have them all pretty closed up. I want to see the outside of these petals, not the inside. That's why I put the wires on the inside. So I'm going to keep it fairly closed. So I'm just going to start to... Don't worry if you can see the wires, because we are going to cover this up with a calyx. These are one of my favourite flowers. I love them. I really love them. I love it in spring when they're all out in the UK. Let me know what your favourite flower is, because that might be the next tutorial. Leave a comment in the comments below and tell me what your favourite is. And always remember, do post pictures. Let me see, tag me in them, or put pictures in the comments if you've made any of these flowers. So that's our lovely magnolia. It looks really pretty, doesn't it, with the pink going up. The stamen in the middle looks really nice. So I'm going to keep that one fairly closed, so you'll see it like that. You'll wonder why you spend so long on the stamen when it's closed, but you know, people will come up close and not believe that they're not real flowers, and they will inspect them. So I think that looks really nice like that, but it needs a little bit of finishing off. Now if you look at this one, they've got like a brown calyx where the bud opens up. So they start off with like a brown furry bud, and then they open up to produce the flower. Now you don't have to do it furry like this. This is not edible. The furriness is not edible. What I use is a crafting flock to stick on there to give you that furry look. But I'm going to show you just how to put a normal brown calyx on there, and that's nice if you're putting it on a cake. If you're putting it in a display like I have there, then put the flock on. But otherwise, you know, just the brown calyx is nice if you're putting it on a wedding cake or whatever. So let's get that. I'm going to, as I say, I've pre-coloured the paste here, just with fractal colours, cocoa. Just put a tiny drop in and mixed it in. So all I am going to do is roll this out, and we don't need much at all, as you can see. And I'm going to take the smallest cutter again, and I'm just going to cut out 2 calyx shapes. I'm going about halfway with this cutter, and then once I've got them, I'm going to go the other side and just make kind of an oval shape. a long oval. And then actually I think I'm going to just thin that out a little bit in between the two pieces of polythene again, using my favourite little gadget. So I'm just going to thin that out because we don't want it too chunky. Now at this stage, if you weren't going to be putting it on a cake and it didn't matter that there was something non-edible on there, then you could put the flock on at this point. But we don't need to do that. So all I'm going to do is pop it around the base of the stem like that, at one side, and then the same at the other. And all that does, it hides any wires that might be noticeable at the base. And I'm not sticking it down with anything, the paste is quite moist. If you need to stick it down, you can use edible glue, you can use egg white, you could even use a little bit of water if you want to stick it down. But I like it to kind of flop open a little bit, as you can see. So that just finishes it off with our calyx. Now, another thing you can do to give these kind of knobbly bits and to make it look more like a branch, just wrap that round. You can use kitchen paper or anything else. And I'm going to use single width tape. You can see that makes little lumps and bumps in the branch. You can also put a little loop of tape and give it a little twirl, and that will give you some little like offshoots. So you can twirl this again, gives you like little twigs coming off. So that's how you kind of put little extra bits on your branch. You can put other bits of wire coming off. You can also make little buds as well, and I'll show you quickly. So to make a little bud, I would just roll it into a ball and make a cone shape, because that's what shape they are. Heat your wire up like we did before, and there you go. So you've got your little buds as well, and they can come off the branch. So if we add it to our others, let's see. So that one's quite open, this one's quite closed. I've got a few more here, so I quite like the sparse look. Let's hope I don't drop them. Let me see where I would have this. I would have it like this, I think. And I shall show you. So I would use this one as just as a display. I think it looks quite Japanese, quite ikebana. So just keeping it quite sparse. You can have them in a vase, you can have them on the side of a cake. They look great on a wedding cake as well. So have fun with them. As I said, please do subscribe. There'll be lots more tutorials coming in the next few months. I've got some really nice summer flowers planned. As I say, if you do use stamen to make your middle, then keep the little seeds, because we'll be using those for our sunflower tutorial. And please let me see what you make. I'd love to see your creations as well underneath. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you have a go, and I shall see you next time. Bye for now.